Now that we have gotten a bit more information about the Edge of Fate, I figure it's a good time to boot up the old what should I do to prepare for the next expansion video. So, what should you actually do to prepare for this next era of the game? In reality, most people do not need to actually prepare anything at all for Edge of Fate. I still think people should, at least watch the video to see if they want to wrap up any last minute items on their list. But if you don't really care that much, then not preparing will not prevent you from enjoying the newest expansion. Number 0 is getting the free weekly Bright Dust in the Eververse store. They're giving out like 700 dust a week. Right now, that is free cosmetics and stuff, so get it. I think most people know the first thing that I'm going to suggest, and it is still my number 1 suggestion: vault cleaning. However, in case you didn't watch any of my Edge of Fate preview videos for whatever reason, before you start deleting your armor en masse, let me just explain something real quick. Stats are getting a massive revamp in Edge of Fate, where half of the stats we have right now are just gone, and the other half are being slightly tweaked. Your current armor will be converted to this new system, and the stat rolls that you have will be converted in the following ways. Mobility is going to turn into the weapon stat, resilience is going to turn into the health stat, recovery is going to turn into the class stat, and then the other 3 are just converting to their new names. So like discipline to grenade, you get it. The stat totals will convert at a 1-to-1 ratio. If you have farmed some of the best armor in the game, namely Artifice armor with very high stat rolls, then you might end up using this armor for a longer time than previously anticipated. This armor is equal to around a tier 3 or even tier 4 quality piece of armor, of which there are 5 tiers, so it's pretty solid, assuming it has the stat rolls that you want. On top of this, there will only be 6 different combinations of armor stat packages that launch with Edge of Fate. So there very well may be some combinations of stats that you would like for a future build that won't be dropping in the ideal configuration for that build, at least for now. That means that no, not all of your armor is becoming irrelevant in Edge of Fate. That being said, new armor is getting some flat bonuses in order to encourage players to use that new stuff, in addition to set bonuses on the new armor. But there's nothing that says you can't mix and match old and new armor. And Tier 5 armor is not going to really be that available before the Edge of Fate raid launches, if at all. Tier 5 armor will eventually outclass some stuff, but if you're looking for certain stat packages, it might be better to roll with older armor with the stat blocks you want versus newer stuff that you might not want. Then you have the fact that ability energy generating perks and effects now scale with your stats. Bungie very recently did a breakdown of how stats in Edge of Fate will compare to today's stats, so let's very quickly review. Tier 10 of a stat right now will be equal to 70 of a stat in the Edge of Fate when it comes to regeneration rates. 70 is the new 100 for everything in Edge of Fate. Anything from 71 to 100 of a stat will make it even better, while anything under 70 will be worse. This also applies to perks like Demolitionist. Right now, this perk and other perks like it give a flat amount of energy every single time. In Edge of Fate, they will scale on a similar level. If you're at 70 of the grenade stat, then Demolitionist will work exactly as it does right now. 71 to 100, it works even better, but under 70, it's going to be worse. This is another thing to consider when purging your vault of armor. If you are going to want specific setups of stats to accommodate your builds, you might want to hold on to those items until you get some more solid replacements. Now, do I think you can delete some of your armor? Absolutely. Anything that you don't think you're going to use, anything with mid to low stat rolls, most of that stuff can go. Any stat packages that will be one of the 6 appearing on Edge of Fate armor might also be somewhat on the chopping block, but spiky, unique stat combinations might still be of use to you. I also fully anticipate that people will start trying to farm armor right now, artifice armor, with the intent of getting rolls that will convert into the stats that they will want in the expansion, namely a lot of mobility armor because it's turning into the weapon stat. Go figure, the only reason mobility armor in PvE is ever going to be good is because it's getting swapped to something completely different. I do not think the average person needs to bother with this, but there will be hardcore players out there farming older artifice armor because it will convert well. I do kind of view this as somewhat of a failure of this new armor rollout. I don't want to be farming old armor before the new armor comes out just because it converts favorably. I just want to grind the new armor. But I understand that it's because Bungie is trying to keep this older armor relevant for much longer than I previously anticipated. Next up are weapon rolls, but I don't have much in the way of new suggestions for cleaning out old weaponry. The number one easiest target for guns to clear out of a vault are crafted weapons, because you can just remake them later on. If you have stuff that you haven't been using for a very long time, you can probably toss it, especially if it's crafted. I know too many people who crafted almost every single craftable weapon just to say that they did, only for about 85% of them to be not even worth crafting in the first place. Otherwise, the oldest weapon that I still actively use is from Season 12, and it's just one weapon. My vault is otherwise pretty modern, save for some sentimental items from the past. The unsunsetting from a while ago did nothing for me. Nothing. I actively use no weapons that got unsunset. And while I don't think the entirety of our arsenals are going to be replaced in Edge of Fate, you should still have some room going into a new expansion, if anything for convenience sake. It's going to be really annoying playing the game with a full vault and a full inventory. Speaking to the complete opposite of dismantling old garbage, the next way to prepare is getting weapons from episodes 1, 2, and 3. Episode 1 has fully craftable weapons, but episodes 2 and 3 do not. I will have a video coming out very soon, like a day after this one, going over all of the weapons that I think you should be getting before we move on to this next era and before all this episode content leaves us. So check out that one for a more detailed breakdown of all of the weapons on my list. Also, while you're doing all of that, make sure you're using your deep sight harmonizers. Sort of attached to deep sight harmonizers, make sure you're pulling out everything you want to pull out from this episode's season pass. Grab the dust and materials and the ornaments and the currencies and all that stuff. There are also ways to pull stuff from even older season passes if you care about that as well. Some very quick Googling will lead you to the right places. Next would be to just stock up on as many materials as you can, namely Ascendant Shards and Alloy, Prisms, that kind of stuff. They have been made way more accessible over the past couple of years, but the best ways to get things like Shards continues to be GM Nightfalls, while Alloys can be earned through episodic activities, although usually on the harder difficulties. The Tome of Want from Episode 3 can also help expedite this process with its exotic currency system. Speaking of stocking up, you should try to stock up on as many exotic engrams as possible for the Cryptarch. I haven't heard anything about the way we acquire new exotics changing in Edge of Fate, so for those not up to date, here's a quick refresher. In order to access new exotics, you need to buy them off of the Cryptarch, but you need to level up the Cryptarch to the maximum rank of 17 in order to buy them. Exotic engram decryption is the best way to go about this, although there are multiple tiers of decryption. The most focused decryption methods, where you pick specific exotics and then decrypt them, will grant you the most amount of reputation with the Cryptarch, while just YOLO decrypting them into something random will award the least. It's still worth hanging on to a bunch of these exotic engrams to burn them at the beginning of the expansion for a big head start in this process. It is definitely not my favorite method for how we acquire new exotics, but while this is how we have to do it, this is the best method to get started. Next is the dreaded bounty prep. Again, I will emphasize that basically no one needs to do bounty prep. The only people who I think need to are people who plan on serious day one raiding in order to give themselves a boost of XP at the start of Edge of Fate to access more of the artifact. Pretty much no one else should be bothering with this unless you are just that bored or are looking for something productive on the game to go do. Also, DMG, the community manager, has given some vague statements about bounty prep, but nothing concrete yet. Historically, bounties from content that is getting removed also get removed, so like don't do episode 1, 2, or 3 bounties. However, there is always a chance that Bungie finally removes the ability to bounty prep, so in case they do that, don't say I didn't warn you. How does one bounty prep? I use DestinyRecipes.com and their bounty checklist. I prioritize weekly and clan bounties as they are worth the most, and then I go down from there. You can do 6 weeks of Ascendant challenges in the Dreaming City, although by the time this video comes out, it might only be 5, sorry. You can do 4 weeks of Europa bounties. There are Trials bounties, Dares of Eternity bounties, Moon bounties, Cosmodrome bounties, and then you have daily bounties as well. Stay away from stuff that is leaving in July. Again, episode 1, 2, 3 stuff. And avoid repeatable bounties unless you have nothing else to fill those spaces with. Leave a little bit of room for quests on the day of the expansion, though. You don't want to have a full quest and bounty log because that's just going to make your life miserable. I think that's about it for the prep that you can do before Edge of Fate, at least in-game. A lot of people taking a break right now. I think that is an extremely good idea. If you have any of your own suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.